I haven't had a milkshake in a little while. Is this something that you do when you kind of go around tours? You kind of...
No, well, I'm a big fan of milkshakes, of a good milkshake. You know, you've got to avoid McDonald's and Burger King. That's not a proper milkshake. But also, it is something I need to start steering clear of. Sometimes I kind of drink them like I'm 18 still, you know, and that can just go for a walk and I'll burn it off. Whereas I'm 33 now, and to burn this off, I don't think I've got enough time in the day to do what it takes to burn this off.
That is true. I mean, you can just taste the calories as they come through.
He's put whipped cream on the top as well, which is amazing. But
which is so wrong, but right. Yeah. At the Glee Club, which is just around the corner.
Yeah.
So is this kind of your home grounds? This is where you...
Yeah, well the one problem with the Glee Club in Cardiff is that it's in Cardiff Bay. And so you get put in a hotel in Cardiff Bay and it's just miles away from everywhere. And there's this nice little pocket of restaurants and there's a Starbucks and there's places like this. But other than that, there's just nothing out here. And so, you know, you got to make the journey into town quite a lot.
Yeah, no, totally. And you come here quite a lot because you kind of do the circuit. Is that how it works?
I do the rounds, yeah. Yeah, I've been coming to... First time I played Cardiff Glee was probably maybe 2004. So, yeah, almost 10 years coming to Cardiff. No, maybe... Well, it was just after they opened. I can't remember if that's 04 or 05. It doesn't matter. But... I really enjoy coming here. I really enjoy Cardiff. I've had really good times here. I've done Cardiff Glee on New Year's Eve quite a few times, and you know, my girlfriend, who's now my wife, would come with me, and we just have fantastic times. So for both, there's always just really good memories about this place, and so I always enjoy coming.
So it's when you're doing these gigs, are you generally the MC now? Is that the role?
No, I change it up quite a bit. I mean, even this weekend they asked me if I could MC every night, and I said no. Just because, you know, I have in the past MC'd a lot.
It's You're not known too for it. I think,
yeah. It's not too bad now because I've made a real, you know, maybe 5 years ago, I, you know, just put my foot down and said I want to do sets as well. I don't want to, because I think the compere thing's a great thing, but you can just get wedged into that and people just book you for the comparing. And it's like anything, do you know what I mean? It suddenly feels like, you know, so doing a set changes it up. But also, you know, comparing is great, but you are constantly being funny and getting the audience to a point and then just handing it off. Whereas when you're doing a set, that's your time. Do you know what I mean? You've got 20 minutes, 30 minutes, whatever, and you can do whatever the hell you want. Whereas comparing, you've got to have, unless you're a prick, you've got to have sort of one eye on the fact. You're like, well, I can't do this massive rant routine that gets them all fired up because I'm about to bring on quite a low-key sort of one-liner guy. So you've always got part of that in your head. And there are people who will just go out and do whatever, but that's just because they can't do anything else. And I should have turned my phone off.
That's all right.
But it's my wife. Hi. No, you hang up. No, you hang up. She hung up ages ago.
Is everything all right?
Yeah, totally.
Okay,
totally.
Good.
We're flying out to New Zealand next Tuesday, so there's a lot of admin going on before that happens. So
yeah, they've got family out there and things like that.
Yeah, my parents live in Australia, and my cousin's in Melbourne. She's getting married, so we're going down for that, and then we're going to stay with my parents, and then we're going down to New Zealand for the New Zealand Comedy Festival, and I'm also doing Sydney Comedy Festival as well.
Okay, so you're getting some performances in there.
Oh yeah, got to pay for it somehow. So.
But I mean, are you as well known there, or is it?
I'm kind of getting there in New Zealand. New Zealand was only really the first time I went back to New Zealand was 2009, and I've been getting decent TV stuff back there since about 2010. Sort of in the last couple of years, I've done 2 or 3 really high-profile TV things down in New Zealand. So yeah, I'm getting known, but I would still say I'm probably more known over here than New Zealand. But I'm slowly getting there.
Yeah. Is it sort of nice to kind of have a fresh challenge, I suppose, that you've kind of... Not that you've conquered...
I've certainly not conquered the UK. But, yeah, I mean, they do things really differently. Everything's on a lot... It's a lot more sort of... how do I say it without it sounding insulting? Some of it's a bit backward, especially TV. You know, but that's just because over here there's more money, there's more people involved, whereas New Zealand, you'll do a TV thing and everyone's doubling up on jobs. Do you know what I mean? And, you know, I did one stand-up special, and, you know, I said, are you having a warm-up act? And they were like, no, we haven't got enough money in the budget. I said, so wait, you are going to hit the stage, you're going to record straight away, no one's warmed up the audience. No, I don't think they need it. Like, well, you know, I'll do it. Give me 15 minutes at the top where you're not recording. I'll warm them up and then I'll do the show, sort of thing. And it kind of... And there were 2 of us doing the show. 2 of us doing about an hour each. And I went on, did 15 minutes before the first guy, and it kind of blew their minds. Like, they were going, wow, this is, wow. And it's kind of just a standard thing over here. Whereas back there, they're kind of like, whenever we've had a warm-up person, it's just been like the stage manager, you know?
Yeah. So it's almost bringing kind of a bit of the UK comedy back home, I don't know.
Yeah, and I guess, you know, because they've never... And also they're new to putting stand-up on TV down there.
Okay.
So...
And it's a difficult one, because... well, I think you either do the spectacle or you try and make the club work, but it is always difficult if you're going to put it on
well,
screen.
I think, stand-up on TV is... it's difficult because... Sitting at home, you always feel like the outsider, and I feel like that with a lot of stand-up DVDs as well, unless they're ones like Tommy Tiernan's is it Crooked Man, I think, where it's filmed in a club and it's filmed. Richard Ayoade directed it, so it's very filmic and it's immersive. It feels, you know, it's great to watch. And Stuart Lee did one at the Stand where he did a lot of delivery to the camera, which is something he then took further on his comedy vehicle show. You know, unless it's someone like Eddie Izzard, where it's on such a big scale that, you know, even if you're in that room, you feel like you're an outsider. Do you know what I mean? And but I think if you film DVDs and if you film stand-up for TV in a very lazy fashion, I think it's very detrimental.
So say you're in a club tonight, you're taking that in a very different way to if it was being filmed like for
No, I think that's the tricky thing. I think you still want to keep it as live. That's what I think. I mean, I think you need to acknowledge the cameras. I don't know. I mean, Stuart Lee did it, and I thought it worked. But I don't think, you know, you get a bit tired of it if every comic suddenly was delivering a joke straight down the barrel and you're like, oh god. So I don't really know. But whatever I've done that's been filmed, I've played the room as like I always will do.
Yeah. And sort of TV stuff as well. It's kind of, I suppose you're taking. You've got to take it on its own merits, I guess. Yeah. How have you found kind of doing a bit more TV and getting some, you know, people a bit more familiar with you as well? Yeah. Is that good? Is that nice? Are you?
Yeah, of course it's nice. Of course it's nice. I mean, the ultimate goal and dream for me would be to be able to tour and get people coming to see me. Like, the Cardiff Glee Club's great, but people are just coming because it's a comedy night and you happen to be on. They're not coming, maybe one or two are coming specifically because I've seen you in the listings, but to get to a point where, you know, you can fill a room like the Cardiff Glee just by yourself, you know, I think that would be a great thing. I mean, you know, don't get me wrong, I've done enough that if I publicise something enough, I can, you know, like Leicester Comedy Festival this year, I got maybe about 150 people. Glasgow got about 100. You know, they're nice numbers, and I enjoy playing to that amount, you know, because I've done comedy clubs where there's 150 people in, but they're not there specifically to see you. They're you know, it's comedy. So TV is a great way of of getting your voice out there to then be able to talk, I guess.
Yeah.
This is not doing any good for my...
Maybe it was a mistake.
Yeah, maybe. But, you know, my especially with stand-up on TV, my goal by doing that is to get more people liking what I do, and also more people really hating what I do.
You think that's healthy then, to have people...
Yes.
Yeah.
I think, I can't remember who it was, but someone famous said a quote, if people aren't hating you, then you're not doing something right, then you're not doing it right. Because, you know, comedy is really subjective, you know, and, you know, you can't please everybody all of the time, because then you're just going to be watered down, you know. I mean, even Ant and Dec, people, they were so watered down, but there's people who don't like them. Do you know what I mean?
True.
So,
but I suppose there are kind of two schools of thought. That you have the weird comic, don't you, who doesn't want too much publicity,
right?
Perhaps, or you know, revels in being a bit odd, or someone who is a bit mainstream. Not everybody likes it, but still, you know.
Well, I don't know if people set out to be. I'm going to be the weird guy. If they do, then they're fucking idiots.
Okay.
You know, I think that's really wrong motivation to go, I'm going to be the weird guy. You just go out going, well, I think this is funny, and hopefully you think it's funny as well. And if that happens to be everyday observations like what McIntyre does, or whether it's more your Tony Law sort of bent, you know, I know for a fact those two guys, you know, neither of them thought, I'm going to be the mainstream guy, I'm going to be the weird guy. Do you know what I mean? They just went out and said what they thought was funny. And I think if as soon as you try pandering to what you think the audience wants, then you're on a hiding to nothing, because they're all individuals, they all think differently, there's no way you can get in their heads. So the best thing to do is just do what you think is funny and hope that other people find that funny as well. And you know, you can tweak and adapt. You know, I think you have to be adaptable, but you should never lose that voice and that vein and that thrust of yourself. Yeah.
No, that makes sense.
Yeah, okay.
But a lot of people kind of they talk about kind of finding their voice, and I just wonder how much of it is to do with becoming the comedian that you want to be, but you are also getting kind of cues off the audience and see what they like and what.
Yeah, I guess it's a symbiotic relationship to a point, because I think you can lose your way. I know for a fact, I keep saying for a fact, but I know when I started playing a certain chain of comedy clubs years ago, that there was the danger of just playing those gigs for what they were. Do you know what I mean? So I had an old agent years ago called Joe King. Great name for a comedy agent, and but he was a very clever, clued up man, and was a big fan of comedy. I mean, he looked after Mickey Flanagan, Greg Davis, Alan Cochrane, myself, Andrew Bird. You know, so he had a really strong stable, and this was all before any of us had got TV work or anything like that. And I was doing one of these clubs, and you know, I did 20 minutes of, oh, Stag do, you guys do this, Hen do, you do this, just button pushing, right? Because internally I was thinking, I just want to survive this. I just want to get through this, get the money, you know, whatever. And so I walk off stage, and he was there, and he said, how did you think that went? And I said, yeah, it went good. And he said, yeah, their reaction was good, but how do you feel about what you did? And I said, I hate it. I hate what I was doing, but I wanted to get through it. And then he said to me, he said, well, first of all, I'm going to, for your own sake, I'm going to pull the majority of these gigs that you've got coming up. And I was like, hang on, I got rent to pay. But he said, no, just trust me. And he said also, as a comedian, you should always bring your product to the environment, don't become a product of the environment. Because if you suddenly just start doing Hen and Stag Do stuff a couple of years down the track, that is all you're doing, and you can't get out of that rut. And so what he did was he stripped my bookings of those gigs back to once a month, and I started doing, because when I first got in there I was like, yeah, it's great money, just fill my diary up, sort of thing, and hadn't realised what I'd kind of become. But I'm not blaming that on the clubs. That was me. That was me, and that was a fair thing. Do you know what I mean? I was scared of failing at those gigs, and nothing creative comes out of a place of fear. You know, because you're not being creative because you're too busy trying to defend yourself and be scared. So, and after that, and something I've learnt over the years is I hate going on stage when I'm on the back foot. When for some reason I'm thinking, I don't know if they're going to go with me and stuff like that. Whereas now, I just think, fuck it. If they're not going with me, they're not going with me. That's fine. I'm going to stick to what I do. I'll adapt it a little bit for the room. Sure, I'll play a corporate different than what I'll play a Friday night in the Cardiff Glee. But ultimately, I'm taking my product to that environment, and I'm not going to change for you guys. Sure, I can stop swearing, but that's not part of me. I swear a lot. It doesn't bother me. And I can turn it on and off whenever I want, because that's not an integral part to my comedy. But if someone says to me, I don't want you talking about going into Boots to buy hemorrhoid cream, I don't want you talking about getting fingered by a ninja, you know, stuff like that, then I'll be like, well, move along.
That's you.
Yeah, I don't want you dictating to me.
Are there certain places where you know you won't work, or are you very confident you can?
Well, I'm lucky enough to get to a position now that, and I have been in this position for a couple of years now, where I can choose to play the gigs that I really like, and I don't have to play the gigs that I don't like as much. So yeah, there are gigs that I haven't said no to them, because I never want to say no to them. But there's just gigs I would prefer to play and the gigs I would prefer not to play. And luckily, at the moment, I'm okay just doing the gigs I prefer to play.
Okay. Well, do you think it will get to a point where you will say flat out no to gigs because it doesn't work in that environment? Or is this your job, you know, you've got to make it work in...
Yeah, I mean, the only way I can see not doing circuit gigs is if I start touring.
Yeah.
But then I'd still want to pop into clubs.
But yeah,
excuse me, because especially like the Comedy Store in London, you know, I love that gig. And when I first moved over here from New Zealand, that was the gig for me. That was my ultimate goal. Was I've got to play the Comedy Store. You know, the first time I went past it with the neon lights, it's right near Leicester Square. You know, it was a huge buzz. And you know, I went to see a comedy night there, and was just so excited about, hey, it's the Comedy Store, I want to play here. And you know, so that was a huge goal of mine, and you know, that's a club that I never want to stop playing. And it's the same with Cardiff Glee and Birmingham, you know, even Oxford and Nottingham. But that's mainly because the people who run the Glee are really decent comedy fans. But then, you know, all the Glee clubs you can play on tours anyway, so yeah, but I don't think I'd ever want to say goodbye to the circuit. But I'd like to not do it as much. You know?
Yeah. You'll never get to a point where you're above it, you know.
No, and I don't think any comic worth their salt as a stand-up does believe that they're above it. I mean, you look at all of you know, like Jimmy Carr, McIntyre, Lee Evans, Izzard. These are all guys who I've worked with in comedy clubs recently, where they've come and trying new stuff. Lee Mack, you know, Daryl Brien does it, Russell Howard does it. You know, they sure, they might be unannounced. Rod Gilbert, they come on and they do 10 minutes, but they're still in a club environment, you know, and especially if they're unannounced, because then they know that it's not a room full of their fans who are going to laugh at pretty much anything they say. You know, they're getting that proper comedy club. And it's amazing to see how nervous some of them get, because they don't play it as regularly as they used to. And it's amazing when you get one of those, especially on a charity night, where you get a big TV name who hasn't been gigging much, another big name, another draw card, yet you've got guys who are gigging 6-7 nights a week and have been solidly for the last couple of years, and they're gig fit. And no matter how funny that TV comic is, they're not gig fit anymore, and certainly not short spot gig fit. So you notice a real difference.
Got those skills.
Yeah. Well, it's a muscle. You've got to keep working it out. You know, they're still good, and they can still do it, and it's, you know, because they've got to the point that they are, but they're not as you know, they're not as sharp and as honed as someone who's just every night been getting out there and slamming it. You know.
Excellent, Jared. Thanks so much. Can we do we have to do this now?